Now, in Ukraine, Russian forces continue to make gains in the east. Troops, together with Moscow-backed militia units, are reported to have taken the city in the Donbass region, another key city there. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin spoke this afternoon to the French President Emmanuel Macron and the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who urged him to hold serious negotiations with President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. Russia's leader said he was ready to look for ways to ship grain stuck in Ukraine ports out to the world. Ukraine's President Zelensky has repeated his assertion that the country will not give up territory for peace. Well, this afternoon I spoke to Volodymir Grojsman, who was Prime Minister of Ukraine, and I asked Mr. Grojsman first about Ukraine's priorities and perspectives when, as many suggest, the possibility is approaching of the Russian invasion ending in a long drawn-out stalemate.
Я вважаю, що Україна і українці борються сьогодні.
I would like to say that Ukraine is not only fighting for itself in this war, because I believe that Ukraine and Ukrainians, we are like a spearhead, and we are fighting to protect all the democratic world. We are protecting all the democratic world, because Russia, including if we also take into consideration that Russia is a nuclear state, it poses a real threat to democratic world. And Ukraine and brave Ukrainians were able to stop this assault, which was moving from east to the west. And now it has to be our common goal, and it is our common goal to win, to defeat this evil. And in order to be successful, there are three key points, three key priorities which will help us to win eventually. First, altogether, we need to destroy military potential of Russia, not only in Ukraine, but also around the world. Second, we need to send their economy into a deep economic knockout. And third, we need to cut off any help which they might get from third states, like, for instance, like Belarus or China, etc. These key priorities will help all the democratic world, led by the United Kingdom, the United States, the European Union, to destroy Putin's regime, which is a real threat to the whole world.
I had the privilege once of travelling by train from Kyiv to the western frontier. It took many hours overnight, even though the train thundered through the countryside at speed. It is an enormous country. It was once the breadbasket of Europe, and certainly of the former Soviet Union. Yet the harvest this year, much of it is in silos stored because men have gone away to fight. How do you plant and harvest again for the future? And in that situation, how do you keep feeding your people in the middle of a war when Russia is trying to cut you off from the outside world?
Я хотів би ще раз сказати, що
here we are not alone. We must not evaluate this situation from the point of view of Ukraine itself, because here we are all together in one boat, and the threat which comes from Putin is much wider than just the territory of Ukraine. If we imagine that he was successful and he implemented his original plan of conquering Ukraine for 4 or 5 days, what would have happened? We would have seen his killers on the eastern borders of NATO and the European Union. And I see that the Western governments and the Western societies, they all understand that that it's not only up to Ukraine to fight this evil, but for all of us all together. If we discuss the topic you asked about food, then it's also it would be right to say that Putin's actions are provoking a global food crisis, because annually Ukraine harvested 80 million tons of grain. For our internal needs, we only need 20 million tons, and other 60 million, they were exported to other countries, and it was enough to cover the needs of 500 million population outside of Ukraine. So indeed, there might be problems and effects which will not only hamper Ukraine, but also other countries which used to buy Ukrainian food. Just look at what Putin is doing. Putin is trying to destabilize Libya and take it under control. So it's really a priority for the whole democratic world to stop Putin, because I believe that he is a neo-fascist. We need every kind of efforts, economic, political, diplomatic, to eventually get rid of Putin and to free Russia of Putin. And we need to be together, and we need to use all possible means.
Volodymyr Grojsman, former Prime Minister of Ukraine.